Hi everyone, welcome to Emotional Companion, a channel sharing knowledge for holistic self-development through books. Looking back, I know you've worked very hard. Endless work, after-hours classes, unavoidable social activities, countless moments of frustration and heartbreak. You can't count how many times you've complained that the job is too tiring, that you're bored, and thought, I don't want to do this job anymore. You know you don't like this job, but the money for next month's food, rent for the following month, your elderly parents, and young children, these reasons don't allow you to quit. When you hear words of encouragement out there, like, go pursue your dreams, do what you love, it fills you with motivation, but immediately afterward, it's still a sea of uncertainty because many people still don't really know what they like to do and aren't sure if this is a dream worth pursuing. So, facing a job they don't like, many people just swipe their card every day, waiting for the clock to go home without having to finish anything. I just do my work to get it over with and wait for my salary at the end of the month. This repetitive cycle leaves me feeling tired, bored, and even miserable. The truth is, life is incredibly short, but not everyone can pursue their dreams. There are so many obstacles and anxieties that make us feel increasingly meaningless and uninteresting. So, what should we do to overcome this boredom? How can an ordinary person make life more valuable? How can we experience a life worth living? To answer this most perplexing question, a 90-year-old woman, Nakamura Sunek, author of the book I want to share with you today, The Value of Life, originally titled The Habit of Reconciling with Your Heart and Doing Everything Well, has provided the answer. Nakamura Sunek is one of the most highly skilled psychologists in Japanese history. Born in 1929, she worked diligently for 70 years and even into her 90s. Despite her age, she shows no sign of stopping. She's not a professor, nor has she published any articles. In fact, she's quite ordinary. Perhaps, in New's opinion, she's not qualified to publish a book, and there's no need for her to. And for an ordinary person to write a book, the content might be like a chicken subtitle for the soul. Honestly, before reading this book, I was quite worried. But after reading it, I was incredibly surprised because I realized I could learn so much valuable life philosophy from Nakamura, an old woman who had experienced the dust of war and the changes of the times. She could see through everything in the world, practicing Dharma and Bobana for over 90 years, yet she still felt a sense of relief. In the end, she could still say that even if she died, she would have no regrets. Life is worth living. It's like a small philosophical book on how to live, written with 90 years of life experience. You'll receive much sincere advice about work, relationships, and happiness to guide you through life's difficult phases and ultimately make you realize that, no matter what, you can absolutely live a worthwhile and valuable life. Working for money is natural, there's nothing to be ashamed of. There's an old saying, people die for money, birds die for bait, but sometimes the attitude of working for money will bring negative or positive results. It really depends on our mindset. Miss Blink. Nakamura was born in a rural area of Japan. Her family had 5 siblings. Her father was an ordinary elementary school teacher. Because of the large family, not everyone could go to university, and like many other families where she lived, the strictness and favoritism of her parents always favored the sons. Her daughters didn't even have the right to choose their own lives. At the age of 16, she only had 2 paths ahead, either get married or become self-reliant. At that time, Japan was severely short of psychologists. One of her uncles, opening a clinic in Osaka, she said that if anyone wanted to become a doctor, she would cover all their tuition fees. At that time, Miss Nakamura felt this was an opportunity to study without having to work early. Therefore, she decided to leave her hometown and go to Osaka. Eventually, she passed the university entrance exam, completed her studies, and became a doctor. Through her experience, it can be seen that choosing to become a psychologist wasn't because of a hobby or passion, but simply because she couldn't refuse the opportunity life had given her. Deep down, she didn't really like the job, but she had to continue working to support herself and her family. Also, because if she didn't become a doctor, she didn't know what else she could do. Therefore, her inner self was full of conflict and suffering. In contrast, her two younger brothers, Xuan, lived much better lives, receiving financial support from their parents, working in jobs they loved, and earning high salaries. Faced with such two different fates, she felt resentful but also helpless. In reality, many of us have similar circumstances. It's like the author doesn't like their job but has to rely on the salary to survive. Not everyone who finishes high school understands what they truly like, what to do after graduation. The arduous process of getting hired only to realize after starting that you're not suited for the job. There are no perfect jobs in this world. Every job comes with unavoidable pressures. To win an order, you might have to smile, bow, and nod, trying your best to deal with the most demanding customers. To get a full-time job, you have to work during peak hours regardless of sun or rain, and not dare miss a day even if you're sick. Every job has its unhappy parts. However, when people are pushed to extreme situations, they might suddenly feel relieved. Nakamura, not long after, he realized that if you think about what you're doing, you're just doing a job. Instead of focusing on what purpose will lead to frustration and suffering, it's better to firmly tell yourself, I'm just working to earn money to support myself. Working for money isn't a bad thing. It's perfectly natural. In over 70 years of her career as a psychological counselor, Ms. Nakamura has heard countless complaints from patients who are frustrated and exhausted by their current jobs. In reality, they don't realize that the reason their work causes them so much suffering is because they haven't understood the true nature of work from the beginning. The author states that regardless of the job, the essence of human existence is to live. In other words, supporting oneself and one's family is the core purpose of work. We spend more than half our lives working. If expectations are too high or thoughts are too heavy, you easily become disappointed and anxious. And when bound by things like salary, status, reputation, and recognition, we become blindly concerned with the opinions, tone, and gaze of others. We'll be preoccupied with anything. What makes you uncomfortable or unsatisfactory at work? Over time, you'll become overwhelmed and exhausted. If this situation lasts for decades, sooner or later you'll be consumed and drowned in a sea of misery. The author advises that people shouldn't place too much expectation on their work. Whether you're a new employee or a long-time worker, don't overthink the tasks assigned by your boss. Instead, try to do your best first. If you frown and think, this job isn't suitable for me, regardless of who you are, it will only increase your anxiety and make you feel unwilling to continue. Therefore, no matter what task you face, maintain a mindset of trying first. Don't give up too quickly. Consider it an opportunity to hone yourself. Even if you can't love the job, at least eliminate the thought of hating it from your mind and try your best before turning 88. Nakamura works 6 days a week, and every day she's busy with many people. Seeing this, one might assume she loves her job, but that's not actually the case. At her age, she works to support herself after marriage. Work is the foundation for building a family life, so she's determined to keep working. She's lived through decades with this mindset, day after day, and work has become a part of her. It allows her to easily go with the flow, letting life unfold as it does. For her, the worries about not finding a suitable job are completely unnecessary. In a person's life, the probability of finding a job they love is like winning the lottery. Instead of constantly worrying, I haven't found my ideal job yet, it's best to work hard at your current job first. Who knows, one day you might find a job you enjoy more. In essence, the secret to a worthwhile life, whether it's interesting or boring, lies in. It all comes down to whether you want to reconcile with yourself or not when facing fate. There's no other choice but to gently accept it, find joy in your work, and be enthusiastic about your profession. Remember, we don't work to seek recognition. Work is simply to earn money to continue experiencing life. When you're 70 or 80, you'll realize that victory or defeat, glory or decline are just fleeting clouds. They don't represent your worth. There are many things more important than that, such as your family, your health, having food and clothing, a roof over your head, and a job to support yourself. Having such a life is enough. Coming home from work, think about striving to complete your tasks and contributing to those around you without seeking recognition. This might bring wonderful surprises in the next stages of your life. Sometimes you need to decisively leave. In reality, many people are still struggling to maintain their current situation. I'm not young anymore. If I quit my job, my mother will be old. What should I do about my young child? I have to continue. What will the environment and living conditions be like at my next company? Can I find a better job than this one? Just these thoughts flashing through my mind, and the decision to quit is put on hold. Nakamura advises us that if there's no way to change, then work happily and diligently. But if you're truly exhausted and can actively choose, then leave decisively. Among the patients she receives, some are bullied at work, some are mistreated by their superiors, and some don't even have time to sleep and have to work until midnight. Amazingly, these people don't quit even when they are physically and mentally exhausted. If you feel too distressed by your work environment and your health is declining, don't hesitate to stop decisively at the right time. After all, the nature of work is to sustain life. The company and the unit are places that create tools for others to make money. If this tool excessively restricts your precious life, then it's really not worth it. To avoid wasting your time, however, there's one thing I want to emphasize. As I've said in many previous videos, many people advise you to pursue your dreams and do what you love. But that doesn't mean blindly following your emotions. You can only proactively choose when you're fully prepared and ready to take responsibility for all the consequences of your decision. If you quit your job without knowing how you'll manage your living expenses and pay rent next month, or if you decide to leave your current job to open your own business, but lack sufficient capital and have to borrow money with interest, that still shows a lack of preparation. Just like the book Side Hustle on the Mindset of a Side Hustle points out, the way to prevent work from becoming a shackle in life is to treat yourself like a company. Don't rush to quit immediately if you look at it from that perspective. Considering the business perspective of a company, this is an extremely dangerous action. A company cannot rely solely on one product as its primary source of income. A company needs a fixed source of income, and only then can it use that money to develop other products and expand its business. Similarly, your salary is the company's stable source of income. You should take good care of this income source and then use its stability to develop a second source of income or accumulate money for a future career. Therefore, bravely breaking free from a fixed job is one of the motivations for changing your life. However, you need to be fully responsible and prepared before making a decision. Otherwise, happily accept your current situation. Any legitimate job can earn money, but no job can make you tired. The only thing that can make you feel down is your mind. Don't force yourself to live. Let go and go with the flow. In swimming competitions, we often hear spectators cheering, "Go on, push harder." People mistakenly believe that simply exerting all their strength to propel themselves forward will overcome water resistance and quickly reach the other side. However, dynamics prove that the more force you use, the more you miss the mark. The nature of water is that the more force you give it, the more it will respond. Life is like a river. If you are gentle and relaxed, you can move forward more easily. In the book, Life Doesn't Need Too Much Force, Yuki Takahashi once said something very true. There are two common regrets in life. One is not doing what you can, and the other is putting too much effort into it. Effort is a necessary prerequisite for success, but if you strain yourself too much, it will backfire. After reading this book, you will see that the author is a person who lives with a wonderful sense of relaxation. This gentle, flowing nature has allowed him to experience over 90 years of life. Living life this way, how can one gently glide along the flow of life without straining, yet still easily move forward? According to the author, first you must discard unnecessary baggage. Nakamura argues that the unnecessary baggage making your steps heavier and more difficult is expectation. The first baggage to discard is the excessive expectation of yourself. Others can do it, so I must achieve it too. I must succeed to bring pride to my family. The underlying reason why you strive to meet your own expectations is that you admire someone else's life or constantly compare yourself to others. When you're young, setting expectations as motivation to work hard isn't bad, but as you mature, you must learn to understand yourself and gradually let go of the thoughts that wanting to achieve more and more, whether it's a life of advancement or a simple life, a life with children or a life of being single. If you only compare yourself to others, you will never get the right answer. As a psychologist, Dr. Nakamura clearly sees many patients whose outwardly admirable lives actually harbor unspoken pain. A successful company owner, yet exhausted both physically and mentally, facing relationship problems and indescribable loneliness. A beautiful young woman with a talented husband and obedient children, but whose friendships are shattered by jealousy, leading to insomnia. Another girl married into a wealthy family, but suffering from problems with her mother-in-law. With over 70 years of experience and diverse experiences, she deeply realizes that those who appear more prosperous and successful on the surface are actually enduring pressure from complex personal relationships. More than the average person, the troubles in life won't disappear as money and status increase. Therefore, instead of admiring others in comparison, forcing yourself to strive for more, and become anxious and miserable, it's better to accept your current circumstances and optimistically move forward at your own pace. Ms. Nakamura believes that others have their lives, and you have your own trajectory. Throughout her more than 70 years of work, she has never compared herself to others, never cared about a younger doctor in her unit having a higher position, and never felt dissatisfied when she saw colleagues treating patients better. She believes that satisfaction in life is not determined by outsiders, and she never pursues it. Living like everyone else is the only way we can live a life worth living. In the book Dare to be Hated, it says that whether we are ahead or behind doesn't matter. The truth is we are all on a path with no straight lines. We are constantly on it, moving forward, but not competing with anyone. Value lies in constantly surpassing oneself. When a person truly lives according to their own values, not out of admiration for someone else, and forces themselves to meet many expectations, even if they only emit a tiny spark like a firefly, even if they only illuminate a small corner of that person's life, it is already truly valuable. Besides expectations of oneself, the second thing to discard is expectations of others. If only my parents treated me better, why doesn't my child listen to me? Why does he always do things like this? Such desires will always be a chaotic mess occupying your mind. At 27, the author quickly married through an arranged marriage, but later, after living together, she discovered her husband was an alcoholic. He spent all the money he earned on himself. In the era in which she lived, she had to single-handedly support the entire family. Divorce was rare, and children whose parents divorced would be criticized for their happiness as well as their physical and mental health. She had no choice but to adjust her mindset. She lowered her expectations of her husband to the point where they could simply stand together and give speeches at their children's weddings, as long as they were still husband and wife. After achieving this goal, she was finally able to relax. You will see patience in her. Unlike suffering, she says life often requires patience. If you understand this truth, you will no longer try to endure but will think about how to make yourself more comfortable. When her second son turned 5, she returned to work at the hospital and asked her parents to take care of him. However, after her parents took control of the family, other problems began to arise constantly. The way the grandchildren were educated had to be decided by the grandparents. They even allowed her younger brother, who was studying at university, to Nakamura and her husband lived together, so conflicts constantly arose between them and her parents. She was overwhelmed with work and her life was chaotic. If you demand too much, everyone will suffer. At this point, she could only lower her expectations of others and set limits for herself. In the worst-case scenario, she only needed to reach an average level. She didn't expect her children to be raised perfectly, nor did she expect her career to be exceptional. She didn't demand a harmonious relationship between her parents and husband. She only needed to reach a moderately good level and let the rest take its natural course. Finally, this difficult period passed. In 10 years, she became an excellent psychologist, and her children all grew up successfully. Later, when her children got married and had children of their own, her husband became even more gentle and a good grandfather as he got older. Indeed, we all hope for a harmonious marriage, a happy family, and 3 delicious meals a day. However, the life of an ordinary person is often precarious. In this chaotic reality, we cannot fight against it, but can only let things flow naturally by lowering expectations and not making things difficult for ourselves, nor forcing those around us. The rule of this world is that if you seek the upper part, you will achieve the middle part. If you seek the middle part, you will achieve the lower part. If you seek the lower part, you will achieve nothing. When you don't achieve it, greed, anger, and delusion will arise. Therefore, stop seeking, reduce expectations, and don't harbor the illusion that everyone and everything will go according to your wishes. This is wisdom. To live a worthwhile and meaningful life, to easily let go of the burden of expectations, the best way is to live with low desires and embrace solitude. Nakamura is someone who pursues nothing other than the most basic things in life. She dresses neatly and politely, doesn't carry expensive bags or wear luxurious accessories, doesn't pursue delicious food, and has no desire to shop. She said that if you and your family are healthy, full of energy, and have a close friend to talk to, then you don't need anything more. Throughout her life, she understood that there is no environment or person in this world that can satisfy you 100%. Even when you enter a workplace you consider ideal, after a while, there will be things that make you feel frustrated. Even when you marry someone you consider perfect and happiest, there will still be things you find hard to accept. In reality, whether it's parents, family, friends, or a lover, not everyone will always care about you. Even a child you love dearly will become independent and start their own life when they grow up. Even someone you wholeheartedly love can leave you. So for all the people you meet in this world, the best way to get along with them is to be happy when they arrive and let go when they leave. From the Book of 6 Lessons. Lectures on loneliness say that loneliness is the beginning of a fulfilling life. If you don't experience being alone, you won't know how to get along with others. Perhaps forcing yourself to shed your burdens will make you feel insecure and afraid of solitude. But when you embrace loneliness, you won't expect too much from others. With fewer desires, you won't bother comparing yourself to others anymore. In this way, your life will be less burdensome, and you can live freely and harmoniously with yourself and those around you. No matter what you encounter, everything is worthwhile. One of the quotes that stuck with me from this book is that life is a journey, always moving forward and never turning back. So be grateful for everything you see along the way. This is also a life lesson I've learned over the years. Be grateful for everything that comes and goes in life. Carry gratitude with you, and no matter how hard or frustrating your work is, you will cherish it. In every moment, you are grateful for just a few stable tasks that allow you to sustain life. Carry gratitude with you as you live, and you will also have greater trust and a more sensitive perception of the warm, flickering lights in life. Like Haruki Murakami said, you must remember those who sheltered you from heavy rain, those who silently embraced you in the darkness, those who made you laugh, those who talked with you all night long. Whether they are people who care about you or strangers you've never met, you will remember their help and their presence and contributions that have allowed you to continue experiencing this life. Whether it's bitter or sweet, you will no longer resent or dwell on petty favors when others ask you for help at work. Just try your best at the task at hand, contribute to those around you, and become a trustworthy person in your work and life. As you live, you will see that what the English writer Ruskin once said is absolutely true. Doing your best for others is ultimately the best thing for yourself. However, you need to pay attention to proactively taking on tasks, not deliberately trying to please others. Sometimes you need to recognize whether you are helping someone achieve something, and then know how to refuse at the right time. Finally, when you live with gratitude, you will no longer sigh at difficulties, but will thank these challenges for honing your willpower. Nakamura believes that everything has two sides. Painful experiences are meant to broaden human nature, just like muscles need training and stretching. The fruits of life will not appear immediately, but in every moment there is certainly something we need to cherish. Be grateful for life. If you don't expect it no matter what, you will see that life is valuable and we have a life worth living. Thank you for listening. If you find this video helpful, please share it. To those who need it, don't forget to give me a like, subscribe and turn on notifications to watch the latest videos once a week. Thank you and see you in the next videos.